So I guess it's time to do a review on these Fox 36s. I did a little bit of a kind of a short-term review of them. I've had a fair bit of time to play with them, set them up, ridden them on some rough tracks, steep tracks, loose tracks, flowy tracks, fast tracks, pretty much everything. And I've got them absolutely dialed. So after cleaning out the negative air spring, which if you've got a new pair of Fox 36s or 34s, I definitely recommend pulling them apart, doing a lower service and cleaning out the excess grease in those air springs, just in the negative side. Make sure you're still greasing everything up properly, obviously, when you put it back together. But let's get into the nitty gritty. So these forks are absolutely phenomenal. They're now the best forks I've ever ridden on. So the Lyric with the new debonair spring RC2 damper is phenomenal. I think it's the RC2 damper, is absolutely phenomenal. This thing's as good as, it's just as good as it gets. I'd like to spend a good amount of time on a Lyric, but it's not really possible at the minute. So long term, these things are phenomenal. Grip2. So you got high and low speed rebound, high and low speed compression. It was a bit of a minefield at the start, especially with that poor negative air spring assembly setup. Once I did that, so I started at 3 tokens. I couldn't really go any further than about 72 PSI. It was just too rough and stout at the top, and it was too inconsistent. So the soft hits felt really, really good, or the chatter where you're not really dropping into your suspension too much felt really, really good. But then the deeper or the harder hits were just horrible. It was rubbish. And it was still kind of blowing through its travel a little bit, so there was no support at the top and the mid-stroke. There was just heaps and heaps of ramp up down the bottom. So it was terrible. I went to clean that spring out and then went from 3 to 2, because 3 was just way too harsh. Went from 3 to 2, up the pressure a little bit, felt better. Still not quite as efficient as I would have liked it. It was too soft off the top, so it was sucking out a lot of energy. But if I ran it stiffer at that point, it was too choppy. So I took another spacer out, and I'm now at 87 PSI. And I've been back and forth a fair bit with this setup, and 87 seems to be the absolute sweet spot. I'm still going to, in the future, take the last spacer out and run it stiffer again. So what's happening here is, when I'm taking this spacer out, when I'm going less spacers, what I'm getting is I'm able to run the fork more efficiently off the top. So it feels like it carries more speed. It's better to pump against, so I can pop off of things better. It doesn't sap as much speed, so your overall time on a fast flowy trail is faster. So you're getting more speed quicker. And the hits are feeling more consistent from the top of the hit, the chattery stuff, the smaller hits, to the big hits are all feeling really consistent, and that's exactly what I want in a fork. I don't want it to be heaps soft off the top and then rampy at the end, because it doesn't feel like a controllable fork. It doesn't feel like I can plow as hard, and you don't get I'm not getting the most out of the fork, basically. So I've set it up now at, I've got 3 clicks of low speed compression, I've got 8 clicks of high speed compression on this dial here. So Fox writing's at the top, closed, 1, 2, 3 clicks, and then that high speed compression is the same story, all the way closed, and then 8 clicks on. So I won't play with that. I meant open. High speed rebound. Now, I couldn't get it to be, when I had the 3 spacers in and running lower pressure and the air spring issue, I couldn't get the fork to be fast enough for me without it topping out. So I always had a top out. I was messing around with the high speed and the low speed, trying to get it right. Now that I've gone firmer with the air spring and less tokens and all clean and whatever, I'm able to run, it's pretty much exactly, I think there's 8 clicks of high speed rebound there. I'm at 4 clicks, and the low speed rebound is 3 or 4 clicks off of full fast. Whereas before I was having to run it full fast to get it reasonably, just quick enough for me to feel like my bike was coming back at me. That I could use it to pop off of stuff and really get sendy with it. So now that all that's fixed, middle of the line, 4 clicks on the high speed rebound, 3 to 4 clicks away from the fastest setup on the low speed rebound, which is great. It's excellent. So the feeling I'm getting from these forks is I can plow it as hard as I want. It holds its line. The grip is excellent at the front. May have something to do with the braking. These brakes are phenomenal as well, which I'm going to do a review on soon. But it just tracks excellently. There's nothing harsh. There's no stout hits. It just feels good top to bottom. So like I said, I'm going to go through and take that last spacer out sometime soon and do a day of shuttles without that and run it. You know, it's like I said, I'm at 87 now. If I take that spacer out, I can probably run them closer to 95 PSI, which will make the bike more efficient again and hopefully still keep that consistent feeling of not super soft off the top, but still comfortable and not harsh down the bottom. So on the deep hits, it's still not going to be harsh. The problem with spacers in these newer forks with the bigger negative air spring, as long as they're serviced properly, the spacers are going to make it really, really inconsistent. We used to use spacers to build up the mid-stroke support. With these larger negative air chambers, it feels like there's a lot more mid-stroke support. So now all you got to worry about is your air pressure. So there is still room for spacers. They still have their place, but it's not like it used to be. You don't have to run the 3 spacers like you used to do in the old Lyric, the pre-negative S, pre-Debonair Lyric and the pre-Fox Evol 36s and 34s. You always had to run more spacers there just to get the mid-stroke support. They've worked out that the bigger negative air chamber creates all that mid-stroke and it keeps it supple off the top. These things are phenomenal. These things are absolutely unreal. So this is the 37mm offset, which I don't really know. Not sure about the difference. It'd be nice to run a standard offset on this bike just so I can see what the difference is, but they've worked it out. Transition have worked it out and they know that that's the offset for this bike. You know, it blends in with the rest of their SBG concept, so the slack head angle. I think that's what it's all about. It's all about slack head angle with the shorter offset. If you don't have a slack head angle, the shorter offset's going to make it feel worse. If you do have a really slack head angle, like this is a 64, I think, maybe 63.5. If you don't have a slack head angle, 64 or so, it's going to feel like rubbish. So back to the fork, the performance is phenomenal. It eats up absolutely everything. They're 170s, which I'm used to 160s as well. So that little bit of extra travel, yeah, it's long legs. It's very long legs, so it's a little bit more to handle on your flatter trails. But damn, Fox 36, performance elite, so no Kashima. I think they look great in the black. I'm not a big fan of the Kashima, but it is what it is. Yeah, stiff. They never ever get deflected. I guess they do feel a bit stiffer than a Lyric, but only at the top end, only when you're really pushing it. And I really don't think it's super beneficial. It is a little bit, but it's not like, oh, I need the stiffer fork, so I'll go. If you're a bigger guy, definitely go the stiffer fork, but otherwise you're not going to notice the difference between the 35mm and the 36mm stanchions. I don't think too much. I just really like the performance itself. So a lot of people are saying this Grip2 is the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm going to have to say that I probably agree. It's really, really good. If your spring isn't serviced properly, if your air spring isn't serviced properly, I don't care how good you've got it set up, it's not going to feel very good. The fork is not going to feel anywhere near as good as what these forks feel right now if you don't have that spring sorted, because I've pulled apart 4 of these now and I've had friends pull theirs apart and whatnot as well, and every single one of them has been overloaded with grease on the negative side of the air chamber, which is basically the same as putting tokens in your negative air spring. Now all this technology that I've put into making the negative air spring larger and then they're tokening it up, making it smaller again, is just reversing the technology they're putting in. So it must have something to do with the ratio of the size of the negative versus the size of the positive. Anyway, enough about that. The forks are killer. They're as good as I've ever ridden. So if you're in the market, Fox 36s are absolutely phenomenal. Better than their rear shocks. This rear shock's starting to come alive. I'll do a review on that too soon. So yeah, stay tuned for that.